Now call this meeting to order. It is 6:34 p.m. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight and ask you to silence your mobile devices. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Dale Blevins if he would lead us in prayer.
Our God and gracious Heavenly Father, we do thank you again for this beautiful day you have given us, Lord. And we just give you glory for all that is done, Lord, and we pray for this meeting tonight, Lord, that we can do the best we can do, Lord, for our citizens of Mitchell County. By us in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Bill. Mr. Steve Pickman, you can give us the pledge of allegiance.
Everybody please state. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Commissioners, at this time, if you would make yourself aware of the ethics awareness and conflict of interest reminder. If anyone here has a conflict of interest, please let it be known now. If no conflict of interest, we will move on to 6 additions or changes to the agenda. Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I have an addition to the agenda. I would like to make a motion to add EDC appointment approval to items for discussion, item 12I.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there any more? This time I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda with the addition of 12I PDC appointment approval.
Good.
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you, Hardy. Thank you, Lee. All in favor? Now we will look at line item 8, approval of minutes. May 20, 2025 regular session. Do I have a motion to pass those minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Steve. Do I have a second? Thank you, Dale. All in favor? And the May 2025 closed session minutes. I'll entertain a motion to accept those.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Lee. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Steve. All in favor? Okay, we will now move on to the public comment section of this. Each person tonight will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes. At the end of 3 minutes, I'll hit the gavel and let you know your time's up. This is for information purposes for the board. The board can respond, but does not have to respond to public comment. So the first one is Ms. Sharon Winters.
I'm Sharon Winters, a Mitchell County resident and retired librarian. I'm here to speak about the new Toad River Valley Regional Library Agreement. I was only able to review the agreement after it was approved last month because I really want the new regional library system to succeed and effectively meet the needs of our residents. I want to share a few concerns about the agreement and ask you to work with Avery County and Spruce Pine to revise it. I consulted with the Nonpartisan Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression and the American Library Association's Office of Intellectual Freedom. Outlined in letters you received today, both organizations raised concerns that certain provisions in the agreement would violate First Amendment rights of library patrons or employees. I'll focus on 2 areas. Restrictions on the freedom of speech of the library director. On page 3, section E, to paraphrase, the regional library director shall not become involved in party politics, nor engage in discussion of political issues, except to advise the board if their actions might violate the law. Library staff, including library directors, have First Amendment rights to express their views, including political ones, as private citizens. Although the government employers have authority to regulate employee speech when they're pursuant to job duties, these employees retain First Amendment rights to speak as citizens on matters of public concern. Please revise this clause so it's clear that the director's speech is constrained only when speaking in a professional role on behalf of the board or library system. 2, exclusion of materials that violate standards for common decency. The purpose statement on page 1 mentions community decency standards, and page 2, C2, mentions that no materials may be purchased which violate standards for common decency. We believe this requirement is unconstitutional because 1, it's a vague viewpoint violation of First Amendment rights of library patrons to receive information and ideas. And 2, it's unenforceable because people must guess at its meaning and there are no explicit standards for those enforcing the policy. Without objective workable standards, determinations of community decency would hinge on the subjective judgment of or and biases of officials making them. The way to approach this would be set policy that defines selection criteria for materials using standards like currency, relevance, authoritativeness, and community interest. Please remove reference to the term community decency and ask the new board and library director to develop detailed book selection and library display policies that will be followed by staff. Amy Regional has such policies which may serve as models. I really want our new regional libraries to be successful, and I know each of you do as well. I urge you to consider revising the agreement to align with First Amendment principles. Thanks for your time and for your service to the county.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Second one up is Kendall Reed.
Good evening. My name is Kendall Reed. I'm a Mitchell County resident and a retired librarian with a master's degree in library science. I'm speaking about the Toe River Valley Regional Library Agreement. I'm advocating for modifying the language regarding approval of the purchase of library materials by the Board of Trustees, C2, by adopting language from the Amy Regional Library book selection policy. The Toe River Valley Regional Library Agreement does not explicitly recognize the regional library's expertise, the regional librarian's expertise in collection development and knowledge of the community, nor does it provide safeguards against the possible politicization of material selection by the board. The first sentence of the Amy policy reads, "The ultimate responsibility for selecting materials for the public library system rests with the regional director who operates within the framework determined by the Regional Library Board of Trustees." That statement indicates both that the regional director is responsible to the board and that the board has a framework of policies. The Toe River Valley Regional Library Agreement material selection policy lacks the concept of the regional library, of the regional director's leadership, and a clear commitment by the board to a framework of policies regarding selection. Amy's selection policy assured that the board be kept informed by the director of the needs and demands of library's users. The library director would also be able to provide information about what new materials might be significant for the community and which sources of authoritative and reliable information would be available for both sides of the issues of the day. I propose that the board will use verifiable standards to choose materials. For examples are contemporary and permanent value, relevance to community needs or known demand, cost, and suitability of subject style and level for the intended audience. A failure to develop criteria more precise than community decency or the personal preferences and dislikes of board members violates the First Amendment's right to receive information and ideas. The selection standards in the Amy book selection policy, under the guidance of the regional director, assure that the public library remain a place where the First Amendment's receipt of information can freely take place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Third one up, Mr. Steve Rowland.
Good evening, gentlemen and lady. I want to address, not necessarily this new agreement. Although before and I discussed it, and my understanding is it was approved pending, approved or review by a lawyer and technical corrections. We came to this point through an issue with the other libraries. I am on board with the Mitchell County Library as well as the regional board. And our processes within that board in selecting our employees and in managing this local library has worked out well. We got thrown into a fray due to some I think it was employee issues in other libraries, which have been addressed by the policy changes we made last year within the what was then the Amy library system. What we ended up, one or two policies I think are very important was one concerning social media. There was no clear social media policy, which very few organizations have clear social media policies. But at the time, we made it clear to all employees that you could not represent the library on the library social media system without having it completely approved by the director. And that change, I think, corrected a lot of issues. The other issues was displays and how they were displayed, and those were as well had to be approved by the regional director. They couldn't be put up without a review process, and that seems to have been working well. We've come to a point we've got to redefine that regional plan and that system under the agreement we have in front of us before us now. I do think there's a lot that got put in there that has already been addressed by both the regional board and our local boards. Of course, our regional board comes to an end June 30th, and a new board is taking over. So I would hope you would carefully consider what's been put before you and maybe take another look at it and get some input from librarians as well as some of the board members. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Dan Barron.
I'm Dan Barron. I'm currently the chair of the Mitchell County Historical Society, and I'm speaking for myself, not the society. I've been an active member of the library profession for 48 years, including 9 as the regional library director of Amy. Residents of Mitchell County have had access to library services for over 140 of its 164 years of existence. Our regional library was created in 1961 under the guidance of Dorothy Thomas, who showed us that 3 counties working together could provide better library services at a more affordable rate than individually alone. She also opened the door for the region to obtain special state funding as well as additional state funding. Amy is among the most envied of rural library systems in the state. Our people have enjoyed and benefited from the many library services for 64 years without previous controversy. Ask any young child who has attended one of the hundreds of pre-morning or pre-school story hours a person who earned a PA or her EDD at the library and then through the library was able to find a job. Or a shut-in who has books delivered to them every week. This issue was initiated by a person not from here, who had never used a library, did not have a library card, and appears to have come with a political agenda which another county commissioners bought into and started the ball rolling. It was not initiated by people from the local area who actually used the library and contributed to it. The document in question seems to have been created without input from library staff, and it is deeply flawed management-wise, most likely unconstitutional, and appears to be more politically oriented than public service oriented. I have well over 1,000 alumni nationally and internationally, and I don't believe that any one of them would accept this position as it is written in that document. I have, First Amendment lawyer, I believe, would have a field day with this document and the way it was created. I hope and I believe that the issues related to this document can be resolved among ourselves amiably. Otherwise, I believe that we will be guilty bystanders, or even willing participants in the death of effective library services in the Toe River Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Miss Susan Moore.
Evening. In 1973, when my husband and our two children moved to Spruce Pine, there were 3 institutions we immediately got to know. First was the hospital, where my husband was recruited to practice. The second was Hickey's Market, at that time the only grocery store in town. And the third was the Spruce Pine Public Library. My husband no longer practices medicine. Hickey's is long gone, but the Spruce Pine Public Library is still doing what it did then, serving the public, everybody, regardless of age, race, political persuasion, religion, or any other dividing characteristic. I was very happy to hear that Mitchell County had risen above the fray and was going to remain a part of the new regional library system, one where the same services will be available and the excellent staff would continue to do their job. I was proud when Amber Westall Briggs was named Librarian of the Year by the State Library Association. That meant the new system would be in great hands, even without Genesee County. Now, however, it seems I made false assumptions. The language of the new contract, which was not available to the public at the time it was signed, has a tone of suspicion and even hostility to the director and to the staff as well. She is told she could be fired flat out, that the board will be looking over her shoulder for any sign that her book recommendations strayed from community decency, that she must remain neutral in all regards, and her staff be neutral as well, and that all acquisitions will be reviewed by the Board of Trustees of the new library system. It's surprising as well that the contract is only for 2 years, as I believe it was previously for 10 years. I ask that a subcommittee of the Board of Commissioners be appointed to review the contract and make it in keeping with the best practices supported by the American Library Association. I also ask that we all celebrate and do everything that we can to retain the exceptional library we have and the outstanding award-winning director running it.
Thank you, Ms. Longstaff. Thank you guys for your public comment. This board will take what you've said tonight under consideration. We'll now move on to number 10, the public hearing that we'll have tonight. Purpose of this public hearing is to obtain public comment on the proposed 2025-2026 budget. I'll entertain a motion to go into the public hearing at this time.
Motion to open up the public hearing.
Thank you, Harley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lee. All in favor? At this time, we are now in public hearing. If anybody wishes to speak or make public comments on the proposed 2025-2026 budget, this is your opportunity to speak. Okay, we have no one in the audience wishing to speak. I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Dale. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Harley. All in favor? Okay, we'll move on to 11, reports and presentation. Miss Jess, there she is. Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a couple things for you. And the collections for the month of May is $102,678.60. You'll see that in your packet. And the collection rate as of May 31st was 97.21. Today is 97.28. So we're getting closer to our number.
And you've got what, 3 weeks?
Group nine.
Some days first, I should say.
This month, yeah. Well, I was thinking the end of July. It's first of July.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there. We're working on it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Miss Kathy Garland with the Mitchell County Senior Citizen Center.
I'll try to get them on quick. I haven't, updated the commissioners in quite some time, and we've had a lot going on at the center, and, like everybody else, we were shut down for a while during the storm, but we're back and busy. So, from July until now, we have served at the center at lunch over 7,000 meals. We have served over 12,000 meals to our homebound on Meals on Wheels. We have provided over 2,000 transportation rides to the center and over 700 hours in-home doing, we call it an in-home aid, but they're not doing any personal care. It's home management skills. So it's cleaning and taking the garbage off and doing those tasks that allow our seniors to remain in their home. We are scheduled to have an Elder Abuse Awareness Day on June the 10th. I think DSS really started that about 5 years ago, and the first one we met in the Creek Walk, and since then we've done it at the Senior Center, and it's grown a little bit every year. Last year we had 35 or 40 to come and walk, and we had a little health fair, kind of agency fair before. So anybody is welcome to come on that day. We're going to walk about 12:30. We have a new retaining wall that should be finished this week. We're so excited because the cross ties have been in out there for 30 some years and they were falling down, and that's paid for with a grant. We have a new roof on that went on real quickly, very efficiently. And we also, from donations, have been able in the last month to buy double convection ovens to replace our old ones. And starting Monday, they will come to start putting flooring down. So those were some much needed updates to the center. Our building's over 30 years old, and we try our best to take care of it and keep it in good shape. Activity wise, Connie has a lot going on. This Friday night is our prom, and it's a disco this year, so you can come and get your groove on if you want to. That starts at 5 o'clock. We have participated again this year in the senior games up at Boone. With bowling competitions, field and track, and Wednesday night is the banquet where they will receive awards for silver arts, things like quilting and woodworking and such items. We are working with Cooperative Extension. They are currently teaching 2 nutrition classes. We have both hospices that are doing a health education each month. Just recently offered the 5 wishes, which is end of life decisions, kind of what you want. I said, I think more people would probably participate in that if we knew ourselves well enough to know what we really wanted. We don't always like to go there and think about that, but we was able to provide that, and they had them notarized and the papers back to them the same day, so that was great. Each month they go bowling to Johnson City. He is absolutely, that bowling alley over there is so wonderful to us. Me and my husband and daughter went one time, and even with Greg's military discount, it cost us $50 to bowl 2 games. Our seniors go and they pay $2. And we've had twice somebody to pay for their lunch, so they make out good there and they enjoy it very much. And we have some good bowlers. Since our grocery store is gone, we have been taking, with transportation's help, taking some of our lower income clients to Burnsville, to the Ingalls, and to Go Grocery to help them out. And then they do a fun trip at least once a month. Each week we have Bible study, we have exercise all 5 days in some form. We have craft class once a week, we have bingo twice a week. We have someone who comes and helps with technology, whether it's phone or iPad, or once a month. They check blood pressures on a regular basis. We just got back Saturday night from a week in Mackinac Island. We had wonderful weather. We was expecting maybe some snow flurries, but it was absolutely beautiful there. This fall, we'll be taking a trip to Charleston, South Carolina. So they do short trips and long trips. And then staffing wise, I just wanted to speak, our Title V program we've had for many years, and it's kind of up and down. It weighs what they can provide to us. I think a few years ago, we had a worker that worked 30 hours a week. The worker we have right now gets 15 hours a week, and that ends in June. So that's 2 workers that we are sort of down with help with. We had a lady in our kitchen to retire a few months ago. We have filled that position with an absolutely wonderful employee. We had our in-home aide just retire a month ago, and our new in-home aide starts this Friday. And our administrative secretary assistant has been there for 30 years. And Debbie is leaving at the end of this month. We will be giving her a farewell party on the 20th, and you all are invited. And we have, that process was a little longer finding the right person, but I believe with everything in me that we have found the right person. Renee Pittman is working out wonderful and picking up quickly. So we're very pleased with that. The only need I see going forward would be, when we can, a part-time employee in the kitchen to free up one of our employees to help more with activities and stuff. But right now we're shuffling around and covering it all. Any questions that you all have? I don't know if you all know, we have 10 Meals on Wheels routes. There's probably a little waiting list on each one. Not any of them are not real long. We lost quite a few during the storm and after the storm, and so we're slowly filling them back up. But we have 2 routes that go towards Beulah Dean. One goes towards Glen Air. The Bakersville route goes to the end of Cane Creek. We have a Ledger route. We have a Grassy Creek route. A Spruce Pine 1's right in town. Spruce Pine 2 goes towards Avery County. An Estato route. And Spruce Pine 3 goes up out to pass. So we don't have the entire county covered, but as much of it as we can and still keep our temperatures in range. Any questions anybody have?
Chair,
It's a great place to work.
could I say a word about what they've done?
Yes, sir.
A lot of times the department head is really, what they're dictated by is how they overcome challenges, and Kathy has overcome challenges. Her whole place where she worked with was part of the Volunteer Resource Center with FEMA. So from basically mid-October all the way up to about the first week in March, she was sharing her workplace, which was geared towards focusing on our seniors, with a lot of folks in the community, a lot of citizens, and just exemplary customer service. Just her customer friendliness of her staff. As county manager, I'm all about, we are public servants, and you exemplify that as a department head.
Thank you. We were not able to serve any meals, any of October, any of November, and part of December. Once we got water back going, we got back up with those. Boone helped us out with some emergency meals that we could take out into the community to cover. In fact, the storm, I think that Sunday we were at the center and we covered 12-hour shifts for months. No overtime. We sort of switched it around and got it covered without any extra time, but it was a tough time going out and finding our clients and without a phone to figure out who was where. But it was good. And Boone just recently called and told me that they could send me $3,250 to buy more stuff for activities to get things going. So that's been spent too.
How many people you service a day typically out there?
Meals on Wheels used to be, and we're sort of set up for 100 meals a day. We dropped down to 68, 70 right after the storm. Because quite a few went and stayed with family for several months because of no power. And we are back up to 89 right now, so building back. And at lunch during the day, it usually averages about 50. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is a little heavier, and Thursday and Fridays is a little less, but
That's,
yeah.
I
it's a
know
good-
mom and dad really enjoy coming out there.
Oh,
and
we enjoy it.
That's really appreciate.
It's a good
what you do.
service. I said the Meals on Wheels. It's not just about a meal. It is, it's good nutrition for so many that don't cook, but it's a smile. Sometimes it's the only person they see that day. It helps out financially. It's just a good program. And then the ones who come into the center, you can't put a price on the socialization and the friendships made and.
Thank you for what you do, because I know you do a fine job.
It's an honor to work with them.
Kathy, we do plan on doing apple butter again since we didn't get to do it this year. So go ahead and tell them to sharpen their knives.
Okay.
You do it there?
Yes.
Be pretty good. You have to try.
They get really, the ladies get very serious about their peeling knives. You do not touch a lady's peeling knife. Very serious.
We'll move on to board comments, Mr. Blevins.
First thing I need to do is, newspaper, if I can, we need to make a correction on
There's already a clarification
on the process that we are just in the talking stage, not the processing stage. Oh, yeah, there are wires crossed on it. Okay, you've already fixed that up. We really appreciate it.
It depends on your definition of process, but
Well, they're just in the talking stage right now.
I said process because it's a vague term and I
Yes, ma'am.
meant to be vague intentionally.
Okay, well, that's, it was mistaken by some, so just as long as we have it credited as just in a discussion stage right now. I really
Which
appreciate
is
that.
part of the process.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I appreciate you correcting that for me very much. Also, and my friend in the back can join in with me anytime if she needs to add. Linda and I have, she attended the May 26th Freedom Month meeting. On the planning stage. I was in integrated testing. And by law, I had to be in the integrated testing, so I could not attend that meeting, but we had another, probably our final planning stage meeting this morning. And, everything is moving very quickly and moving along very good with Freedom Life right now. Board, and we're very pleased and happy. We're in the next stage of getting our executive board set up, which will begin, that process will begin with a celebration and a meal on June 23rd, where our new executive board will take over and the planning board will be dissolved. And several of these planning board will be going to the executive board, and they are still working on some of our outside resources, such as our district attorney representative. We do have some commitments from other representatives from DSS and MCHP. So we're moving very quickly. And we are on the timeline that was given to you last month. And that's all I have. All of my other boards are next week. They're not following 1 week just throughout. So I'll be going to like 5 boards in 1 week. It's
Those are
next
always
week.
fun.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you, David.
Yes, sir.
Maitland, we have got an offer out, and it's with the state, so as long as the state approves it, then we will hopefully have a new president here in the next month or so, pretty excited about that. Like I say, it's pending the state board of review, so basically the process is, the search committee makes a recommendation, that recommendation and another backup is sent to the state approves it. Then you can move forward with that offer. If the state doesn't approve it, that's why you send 2, in case you've got a backup in the wings there. So we also had graduation this month. I don't remember the number, I couldn't find it here on my thing, but really good ceremony there. So that's the fun part of being on that board, is getting to go see those kids and adults. Sometimes I call them kids, but sometimes there's some adults out there that find their way down the aisle. So always a lot of fun. JCPC unfortunately was not able to attend this month's meeting, but we did a meeting on gun safety, I believe, if I'm not correct. My friend in the back there, Ms. Gilchrist, any other thing besides the gun safety from our meeting? I wasn't able to attend.
No, except for John's did a superior job.
That's
It was
what I-
really great. And if anybody, or any organization that you are a part of or has a need for gun locks to get out to families, and particularly families with children, we have those. And please just get in touch with myself or Dawn, and we can make sure that you get them.
Very, very important stuff. Via, I had a couple of meetings at a regional board meeting and the local board. A lot of moving parts with Via. So Via services 39 counties, I believe now. And we're part of those counties. They are paying a lot of attention to all of the changes in Washington, and how that may affect their finances. The biggest piece is this capitation, and please forgive me, because I'm learning this stuff myself as I'm just joined this board, this year, so, but the way I understand capitation is the government allows so much money for a patient to receive services, that capitation can go. And so the way I understand is value is paid, you know, there are a certain amount of money dollars that's allocated to them for that. And they are looking at changing that, and that number is going back down. So, you know, a lot of nervous folks there about how much change that we're going to see with VIA and their ability for different services because of, you know, these federal changes. So not that I know the last week the bill had passed the House. I'm not sure. I've not looked since, I think, is that right? The House, and it's in the Senate now. The last Trump's, what was it called? Trump's Big Beautiful. Forgive me for my, that, I just read that piece of it, but that bill has got these changes for VIA. So, more to come there, you know, and I apologize for my lack of knowledge of what all is going with that, but, let's see. I believe that's everything, Jeff, on my end.
Mr. Lee Ellis.
On Friday, May 30th, we had an EDC meeting, and Bill Slagle was, that was his first meeting as the executive director in that position. We approved the reappointment of Dr. Tanya Hale, Chris Gentry, and Dr. John Boyd. We also are going to request the following individuals to be appointed to an advisory position, which we'll vote on later. Jamie McMahon from Mountain Community Health, and Paige Ensign from the Chamber. We have new officers for the 25-26 year. Chris Gentry will be the chairman. John Duncan will be vice chair. Tanya Hale will be secretary, and Amanda Hallfield will be our treasurer. During our meeting Friday, we awarded the water tap for the new medical clinic being constructed in Grassy Creek. This was something the EDC had purchased years and years ago, but it was a required match for the building reuse grant that will be applied for by them from the Department of North Carolina Department of Commerce. We also adopted the 25-26 budget of $192,000, but this included a $40,000 award for the Mitchell County Chamber of Commerce, and also the addition of a part-time employee 24 hours a week. They are continuing to pursue, I think I brought this up earlier this year, but we're continuing to pursue the details and get a 501 and pursue and implement and be a 501c3, get that designation. We're working with UCB, the United Community Bank, on the reserves or the fund balance, and try to be sure we're making best use of that money. And we found out about most of this is just giving project names because it's not appropriate to speak in detail at this time about the exact names of the people or the projects themselves, but we currently have at least 4 different projects that EDC Director Slade was working on. And he had about 15 interactions with local businesses. That is one of his main priorities is to be sure that we continue, we support the businesses we have and see if we can help them grow as well as trying to have growth in the county and in EDC itself. Didn't have any other meetings except I think we're going to address the Firemen's Association later. My nephew graduated in Georgia the night of the Firemen's Association meeting. That's all I had, Chair.
Lee, was the part-time employee for EDC or was that for the
EDC.
40,000 that went to the chamber?
EDC.
Okay,
And the 40,000 was there, we entered into a new, mutual,
MOU,
MOU, thank you. And have some new, requirements for the chamber, to meet, but, we think they're going in the right direction.
Okay, Ms. Banks.
we only had, I've only had one, board that has met since the last time we have met. Everything else I've got will be presented at our next meeting. However, the TDA did meet today. We had a special call meeting to discuss visitor centers, both on the road and at the Parkway. And then there was some discussion about, a financial decision that we had been discussing, but it was tabled for the next meeting to get further information. And so, no decisions had come out of any of the 3 topics that were on the agenda. So hopefully we'll have another update after our meeting on the 3rd Tuesday. It'll be right before our commissioner meeting. That's all I got.
Okay.
I only had one.
That's just one, you know. Because of schedule work situations, I missed 2 of my, meetings. One was freaking my wife, and the other was Fire Association. Had something come up the last minute at that one that I could not leave. And then this last Wednesday, I came to Bakersfield. They had a planning session, had people from all over the United States working on a plan for revitalization of downtown Bakersfield. I sat on the architectural and landscaping design side of it. A lot of people were there, a lot of good thoughts. And interesting things were brought up. You know, they realize there's some setbacks or situations to overcome with some of the projects. You know, infrastructure, water, sewer being one, and floodplain was another one. I did not get to go Friday night to the follow-up. So I'll be interested to see how that turned out, what the final presentation was. So, you know, that's basically all I've had this week. I've got a lot coming up this coming week, which is going to be another busy week, but that's all I have. So we'll move on to item 12, items for discussion. Item A, total River Valley Regional Library Board appointments.
So I can speak to that, Chair. So basically, on this new library agreement, you know, should we move forward with that, we need 2 appointments from this commission board, and there will be a need to bring forth names by the board as appointments that we would do.
I will go ahead and notate that I had a discussion with one of the commissioners up in Avery County. And there seems to be just a tidbit of heartburn about there being 4 actually coming from Mitchell County itself, even that's a combination of 2 for the Mitchell County Public Library and 2 for the Spruce-Pine Library. And then them only having 2 representatives for the county. So just for full transparency, that may come up before the board, and a discussion will probably be had with Mr. Eggers. Just so that nobody's blindsided by it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
related to that, this agreement's only effective if all 3 of the entities were to sign off on it. So if you make appointments tonight to this proposed board, those would only take effect if Avery County has approved those. The present library board, regional board, is set to expire June 30th under the terms of Nancy's withdrawal. So there would need to be something in place July 1, or there won't be a governing apparatus or a regional librarian effect for July 1. So certainly this agreement can be changed or amended, along the way, or if Avery has issues that they'd like to address, we can certainly revisit those. But at this point, in order for it to meet a timeline, it would either need to be acted upon today, contingent upon Avery making their appointments, or we would need to revisit it at your second meeting in June, if Avery does come back to us. I've not heard from Avery's attorney with any issues related to that yet. So, my suggestion would be you can make appointments if you have those contingent upon Avery approving the agreement as written. However, you certainly can table this to your next meeting if you wish to do so.
What's the pleasure of the board? We've heard remarks from the attorney. The Amy board is non-existent. July 1. So something has to be in place before then. For this board. And then we can next meeting, Steve, was the 17th of Tuesday. We had actually talked about if we did not have a lot going on that month, and we might cancel the second meeting, and when we do our budget presentation on the 30th, move on there, but and we can still do that, but it may be more than a budget process meeting on the 30th. So, we'll discuss that, and you guys want to handle that a little bit later. We may have to have the second meeting of the month, guys, because of this situation and EMS. Okay, some things we may have to address and not be able to put off, and we don't need to put off to the following meeting. So.
I know when Victor sent an email out, I did, nominate Steve Rowland, who is currently on the Amy board. And, I think he always shows up for meetings, and I've been very happy with him as a board member. So I did nominate him, and then if we need a county representative, I don't care to do so. But, I guess that's up to this board to decide if there needs to be a county commissioner appointed to that board. I don't know if that discussion has been had or not.
And there's no prohibition under the current draft with a current county commissioner serving on the board if you choose to do so. The previous arrangement, for whatever reason, did not allow that, but that has been changed by consensus of the parties. So it's within the board's pleasure, however you wish to proceed.
Discussion on that matter?
I mean, personally, just based on the information we heard tonight, I'd like to explore a little bit more. Let's put it on, I'd like to talk to some of the folks that were nominated to go there and get their feeling about, you know, if they feel good about the appointments and make sure we've got the right folks there, person. And talk again on the second meeting.
Okay, and I know Miss, go back to the notes, Miss Nichols had expressed an interest or, you know, via email, and I think Miss Cook, Janet Cook also expressed an interest along those lines. So that would be 4 folks, possibly from 2 positions on that. So we've all heard Steve's recommendation. Does anybody want to add to that? Take away from that, get their own spin on that?
Are we for sure making the second meeting?
I think we're gonna have to, Harley.
Then I support Steve's decision. If you're putting that in the form of a motion, I support it as a second. To table it.
Put that in the form of a motion.
Let me table that.
The second meeting,
Okay,
give us a chance to explore some of this information we received tonight and, you know, talk to some of these folks as well. So
So Mr. Pittman has made the motion to table
And I'll second
the
that.
appointments in the Regional Library Board. Ms. Masters has seconded that. All in favor? Votes unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to, item B, High Country Workforce Development Board appointment. And I think we had one recommendation, Mr. Derek Buchanan, owner of the Grassy Creek Golf and Country Club.
And what's his construction company?
Wheels construction or wheels contracting.
Yeah. I would put on the motion that we,
Can I ask a question?
oh, yeah,
What is the timeframe on that board appointment? Do you remember?
I believe it is a 2 year,
I was thinking 2 years, but I wasn't for sure.
2 years, what sticks out in my mind.
Okay.
And it meets, typically, every 2 months.
Mhm.
Virtually it's always in person, but they always have a virtual option, so, I always try to drive up to Boone to get there when I can. But it is nice that they've got that if you can't make it, so Derek, he would be able to, he'll have some flexibility.
Okay. He was very, thankful to be asked.
Awesome.
And he's never served on that board before, so that's.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's good. He probably employs, how many he's got?
I don't know how many he has. I should have asked him.
He's got quite a few, and he's got a good pulse on the area, so I think that's a good.
Somebody mentioned housing being a big part of that community or that workforce.
That's right, the consortium was always looking at like, for the workforce, what can you do to, what do we need to make it better, what's the needs, is it housing, is it, pay, is it, availability, all those things, and he would be somebody I think would be very good to contribute to that. I'll make that as much.
I'll second it, Steve.
Okay. We got, if you'll take a motion, Steve, a second, Lee, all in favor of Derek Buchanan for the Workforce Development Board? It passes. And we'll back up just 1 minute for clarification. On the library board, how often does that board meet? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Is that up to the discretion of the chairman going in the past, David?
I think it was quarterly.
It was quarterly, but I need to,
Quarterly.
don't want to misspeak.
Okay.
On the new.
The regional was quarterly and the locals were quarterly.
Okay, just wanted that for clarification.
Mr. Chair, by statute, that could be as often as needed, either by call of the chair or by majority of the board.
Okay,
So quarterly may be the normal meeting schedule, but if more frequent meetings are needed, they could have those.
right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to C, debris tech RFP acceptance, and I'm gonna turn the man with the knowledge over with
When
this.
it comes to debris, I'm your man, Clean up of the county, yes. I'm the debris czar, yeah, debris czar, I like that. So, yeah, this is a debris tech RFP. So we, what I'm doing with the county is trying to put us in a position of power with debris. So the czar, as you know. And so when we take an RFP out, that kind of puts them off the state contract onto the county contract. And these RFPs can serve for multiple years. So if I need to plug in, let's say, heaven forbid, we get a storm next year and the state contract has one selection that's being shared by 20 counties and you don't got any mobilization, I can go to my RFP and pull these folks off and have the rates all predetermined. And so that is the reason behind it. So on this specific debris tech RFP acceptance, we put out an RFP, we only got one bid. And then, so by general statute, I have to put it out again for 7 days. Well, I put it out for 14 days to try to get some more options, and I only got one, and it was debris tech. So then we said, are they cost reasonable and are they qualified? And cost reasonable on the state contract, they were at $65 for a, let's just say we'll take a benchmark for a project manager, $65 per hour is the charged rate. That might not be what that project manager gets. And that state contract, was done in 2020. So they hadn't had a pay raise since 2020 on the state contract. The new contract was $85, which did fall in the, threshold for the consumer price index. So that did make those funds, reasonable. So, therefore, as a result, I would ask that the board make a motion to approve Debris Tech as, the selected, contractor for debris, monitoring.
How long is that contract good for?
When I was here, about 3 years. We might can get by a little bit, but about 3 years.
And then do you just re-up it and just?
I can put a new RFP out and I send it out and we evaluate once again.
If the state changes their rate, how does that affect?
So it used to be, they would be an amendment to our state contract. And we would have to go with what the state said, but on this new one, since I've got Crowder Gulf under, y'all approved them a couple meetings ago. So when you're doing debris, you have a monitor that's a different party and a contractor who's a collector of the debris. The monitor makes sure it falls into FEMA requirements. So both of these are under the county, so we would dictate. If they ask for an amendment to the contract, then we would get before and try to get an amendment going that was reasonable. Or if it was not reasonable, we might have to go out to RFP, but I think the rates on both of these were rather competitive and rather built for, multiple years. So we are set up for the long term and this gives us more freedom. Should we want to go that route, I am exploring other routes on debris. If you see me in this, I always have a plan A and a plan B. And so, and it's stuff, you have to, maybe even a plan C, but, on this one, this is kind of plan A going, but I am exploring a plan B. Me and Mavis are Wednesday, so we might have some more things for you on the mid-month meeting.
So, can I ask a fire question? So if, heaven forbid, we had a fire, like a bad fire, is that a situation where you would deploy debris tech again in that situation, or is it only if it's a federal declared emergency like our Helene was?
So it would need to be a federally declared emergency to get reimbursement.
Okay.
So basically everything in debris is a non-taxpayer, local taxpayer money, local being the key word. It's through the storm and FEMA approves debris removal. And then we get reimbursed or we get an expedited upfront payment, but if done right, it's all reimbursed by FEMA. So in a future storm, we would, a future storm, if it's not federally declared disaster, it would be very difficult to get, your debris monitor to come in on that. We would probably need to locally contract it if it wasn't federally declared.
So when the state declares an emergency, is that always like a 75-25 or is, I mean, not 70, I guess 75-25 is for federal and state, so just like, what is their reimbursement?
I can weigh on this, Mr.
Go
Mayor.
ahead, yes, sir.
We can, certainly if you chose to do so, let's say you had a large fire and there was debris we need to clean up on public lands. If we're going to be paying for that, you could have debris tech at these rates work for you as a county separately, but that's not eligible for reimbursement unless it's a federally declared disaster. The match that's done, the federal government generally, as you referenced, pays 75% after the first 60 days of disaster. And then there has to be a match of 25%, either by state or local. By state policy, the legislature has said they're going to pick up that match and pay that so that we as a county are not obligated to do so. Under the current disaster, that match is a 90-10 split. So the federal government's paying 90% of it and the state's gonna pick up the other 10%. So as Mr. Cook mentioned, if we do things right and dot our i's and cross our t's, 90% of all these costs are federally covered expenses, and the other 10% will be paid for by the state.
Okay.
So that's, but if it's only a state declared disaster, you don't get reimbursement from either the federal government or the state. So that's the it's gotta be bad enough for a federal disaster to get that matching.
Reimbursement 101, thank you for it.
It's a skill I did not want to have to develop.
Yeah. Yeah, I would need a motion in a second to, move forward with the debris tech, selection.
We'll have a motion for the debris check RFP.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Lee. Second to Steve, all in favor? Yay. Now we just told the years also, it's a transportation match agreement.
Yes, so this is more of just to kind of cleaning up stuff. It's not necessarily, we kind of went ahead and approved this back in January when I was bringing it to the board that we are doing a study for a transportation base to be built, brand new through federal funds. And that study required us to have a $30,000, for the feasibility study to get started, and that's kind of the county's input to that. So, the board, of course, voted yes and moved forward, and we got a $5 million grant that has an 80-20 county match on that. So this past week, we got a, email just confirming, the terms of the agreement. And so when we passed that, I don't think you all had access to those agreement terms. So I wanted you all to see them and just re-bless it. It's not anything new. It's just making sure that upon the terms of this agreement, of which our county attorneys reviewed and, probably has been looked at by the finance office and myself, maybe in the past a little bit, but this came from the state last week, and I just wanted to get a, kind of a final blessing on that, just to make sure I'm running my grant documentation and my follow-up and stuff to make sure all it's looking good. So I just need an agreement to, continue that, to move forward with the $30,000 that was pledged back in the, beginning of January, February, I forget the name.
On page 2 of the agreement where it says department administrator, is that Sheila, is that you, is that Mavis, who is that?
So Sheila is working as, I think, from the Department of Transportation, that administrator.
Yes.
I think that she's working on that basis. We're gonna be the grant, I think Mavis will be grant administrator. I think Mavis wants you or something like that,
And
where
that
she's
should be the finance signer too.
finance signer. And then I think as far as my signing, I'll sign on behalf of the county, but I think they're running a lot with Sheila on here.
Any more questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the match agreement for transportation.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Dale. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lee. All in favor? Okay, we'll move on to line item E. Our clerk, Ms. Deidre, made us aware of this situation, made me aware of it. It's a resolution regarding the importance of sales tax revenue for county governments. And I think surrounding counties were supporting this resolution. I'm not going to read the resolution, but I'm going to have county manager, speak to this, situation. You know, if it passed in Raleigh, it could put a financial burden on Mitchell County.
Is this generated from the potential 911 board pulling air sales tax money to utilize it for the,
I would say that's a lot of what's behind it.
okay.
But the whole premise behind it is grabbing sales tax, but that was probably the initiator to get everybody. So I'll thank you, Chair, and I'll speak to that, sir. We had heard rumblings at the state level about a holding back of tax revenues to pay for certain projects. And, these sales taxes are essential for Mitchell, for counties and rural counties, basically. If our budget probably, would not be able to fund our essential services if we didn't have that sales tax revenue coming into it. So any disruption, diversion, this resolution is speaking to that, and it's basically a tool to let our folks in the state house know that as a board, we are wanting to be able to control we want our sales tax coming to us. We want that local control going to us and them not making these decisions to take that and move it around. We are already, as we get through this storm, tight on our cash flow, tight on our funds, so that's what this basically speaks to. And, if approved, we'll send it to the members of the North Carolina House and Senate as a clear message of support for preserving the county's funding.
Any questions for county manager?
I guess you wholeheartedly support this, right? Absolutely. I would definitely like to make sure that if we approve this, that it gets to them, like tomorrow, because next week is County Advocacy Day. And so there's gonna be a lot of people in Raleigh from this region.
Any more discussion, questions?
Now I'm making a motion to approve it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dave. All in favor? Okay, Deidre, again, thank you for bringing this to my attention. We certainly don't want to be left out on something this important. Budget amendment number 5, Ms. Mavis.
Budget amendment number 5 will bring our total budget up to about 39.5 million. It is again a balanced budget amendment with no funds coming from fund balance. We're still just moving money around, acknowledging grants that are coming in every day. In fact, Recreation just got another grant today. They're moving so fast right now, it's a little bit hard to keep up with, and it's a little bit hard to know if it's gonna go in this year or next year. In this budget amendment also, we did some budget amendment for Fund 24, which is a tourism, just to move money around in that area. And then in Fund 18, which we had to create a new fund called the North Carolina Cash Flow Loan. And that's because we had originally put that cash flow loan in general fund. And then later, again, this is another moving target. They came out with that so quickly, they didn't have a lot of the policies and procedures in place. So now that those are coming out, we're having to go back and rearrange to make sure we're within those guidelines. So we developed Fund 18, which will actually house your North Carolina cash flow loan monies. Any questions? And I'm sorry for all the budget amendments this year. I really do apologize, but it's a necessary evil right now.
I did find out, with this, talking with some of the school board members, that grant that they got, it was not one that will have to pass through the county, as the Hurricane Helene grant doesn't have to go through the county.
It does not. It goes directly to them. Actually, they've been emailing me almost daily wanting to know if the money's in their account yet. Because it does, I think some of it did flow through the core banking, which is the same funding that their other grants come through. But then some funding come directly to them. So she's trying to figure out her next, I think she's getting like 111,000. She's trying to figure out, she's watching both accounts to see which one it's gonna hit. Yeah.
I made a motion for budget amendment number 5.
I'll make a motion to approve budget amendment number 5.
Thank you, Steve. Do I have a second? Thank you, Lee. All in favor? Mavis?
I will talk about the Mitchell County Cash Flow Loan Amendment. Again, with policy and procedure coming down after they sent this money out to counties, the Treasury Department got involved and started looking at it and said, well, the way the agreement was written, it could have some repercussions on audit procedures, how they put the money in the audit, and that it could affect our fund balance. In other words, we may have to restrict that money and would cause some issues there. And also, there's some wording in there that doesn't necessarily limit us I think they've expanded the time if you need to be, where the original one was written for 5 years and had a definite payment schedule. I think this one's gonna be a little bit more lenient. And so they've had to do an amendment to the original agreement. So that's all I can say about that now. And tomorrow I have a call about this, so there may be another amendment to the amendment. I don't know yet. So I have a call tomorrow with the Treasury Department, and apparently there's some more guidance coming down. And on that thought, we are still waiting to hear about the second round of cash flow money, which we have asked for some, but have not gotten word on that. So I'm hoping the call tomorrow will enlighten us on that as well as this one. But for right now, this amendment has to be in before June 30th to make us legal for this year's audit. So I need motion and a second and approval on the amendment to the cash flow loan that we got from North Carolina.
Very good. We'll have a motion for the cash flow loan amendment.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Lee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. All in favor? And maybe you're up again, Mitchell County Budget Ordinance 2025-2026.
This is your ordinance for 25-26, and this includes all your funds, starting with Fund 10, going through all your special funds. And this is the legal document that once you approve, will set in place our budget to begin July 1st. And I'll answer any questions you may have. I know some of you might be seeing this document for the first time, if it's your first time on the board, but if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And I'll need a motion and a second on this ordinance.
Any commissioners have any questions for Mavis? Okay, entertain a motion for county budget ordinance 2025-2026.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Deb. We'll have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Lee. All in favor? And the last thing we have is EDC appointment approval. I think, Lee, you touched on this. Any board members, any commissioners have any questions concerning this and what this is about?
What are the timeframes on these appointments?
The three reappointments are 4 years.
Mhm.
And the advisory positions, I believe, are all these 2 years.
Okay. And since Dr. Boyd is not gonna be the president, depending on whatever Steve says, whatever the word that says, does that, will that matter? Or will that position roll into the new president, or is he being appointed as the project manager? And so it won't matter.
We'll have to ask the director that and get back to you.
Okay.
Not sure. But, the entire board was in agreement that with him staying on as project manager, he would be valuable to EDC, but I'll have to get back to you.
And then I do have one more question is, how many consecutive terms can you serve on the EDC board before you have to take a break?
I don't think that's, if I'm not mistaken, it's not, part of the bylaws.
Okay.
I'll have, the EDC director follow up with everybody on both those questions.
And then there was, the last time that we appointed the advisory people. Who was the other one? It was Jamie and him. The last time we did it, not this time, but the.
Well, last time it was John Duncan.
Oh, it was John, okay.
Curtis Taylor.
Okay. And now Curtis is a board member.
He is.
Does it rotate up?
He is staying as advisor. He
Oh,
won't be,
okay.
he won't be there.
Okay. That's all my question.
Any other questions? Okay, entertain a motion for these EDC appointments.
I move we make the appointment.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Dale. All in favor? Next thing we have is consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
You have to sign all those contracts tonight.
Already done.
Oh,
I was gonna say, is your wrist still together on all those contracts, 35 of them?
Times 6. So do I have a motion for the consent?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Okay, we'll move on to 14, finance officer's report.
I don't have anything else unless you have some questions about anything. I think I've done enough.
Okay, we'll move on to county manager's report.
Yes, I'll follow up with you a little bit about our fire association meeting, Thursday, a week ago. So, we met in Bradshaw for fire association meeting, and, some of the things we were discussing was the 1 cent raise of the fire tax, and our folks there were very appreciative of the commission board seeing their need and, you know, knowing the things they had dealt with through the storm, and you know, it was a step in the right direction. I think they were all in agreement on. Of course, we discussed several other items, and a lot of reminders were given for, you know, we're running a project, a public assistance project on the water points. We're working on several things such as the bridge over for Parkway. And we are, you know, basically everybody's looking at this wildfire risk and trying to make sure they're up on it. Of course, we talked about FEMA, making sure that they're doing their forced equipment reimbursements for FEMA and doing all that. We have reached out to them with our Samantha and our disaster management crew. So hopefully most of those folks are.
We only have one that did not get theirs in. Everybody else's, I've already submitted them, they're in the pipeline, and in fact, Ledgers is actually crossed over to the state. FEMA's already approved it and sent it over. A couple others are sitting in the FEMA queue right now, Alan, so they came through.
Good.
I just have
I'm glad
one.
you told me that. I wasn't sure.
One that
We were finally catching them. It was herding cats there for a while, you know. We were trying.
They don't like to do paperwork.
Yeah, they are, they're really good to,
Which one, are you missing?
Fort Mountain.
Fort Mountain.
And the deadline's passed?
No,
No, okay, good.
but
Getting close.
I'm holding a placeholder for them, so
Okay.
I can still do them, right? But I just don't have Fort Mountain yet.
all right, well, yeah, so, that was a good meeting, good productive meeting, and, of course, they're very aware of our fire risk. I want you to know that, and they, had a really good fundraiser with the golf tournament. They said that went very well, one of the best ever. Had good, good fundraising event, very fun for folks. So other things we'll talk about as I go down my list. That was one of my main ones I wanted to remember because Lee and Jeff was telling me to touch on that one. So we're today I got word from FEMA. I've been really trying this project over here in this stream of Cane Creek in our basin. We have a stream that levels out and bends, and what's happened is we've got a lot of silt deposited in this stream, and as I've told you probably in several others times in the past, we've been pushing really hard to get some movement on FEMA to clean the stream out. Well, today, FEMA said they would approve the project, but they do not want to task it to the Corps. The Corps is wrapping up. We got about another month, maybe a little over a month with the Corps. So they're wanting us to price it out. And so we're gonna be pricing out silt removal for about a 1 mile stretch from the Wade Tipton field up here down to the Bakersville Fire Department approximately to get this stream, where it's not a flood risk. Right now, it has been quantified with anywhere from 3 to 5 foot of silt throughout this creek, and that's lifting that bed up 3 to 5 feet, which makes flooding very more, The potential's much higher. So, that one's got a positive direction on it. Another thing in FEMA we had that was a positive direction was, the land exchange agreement with Bowman. We were told beginning of the week and several times in the past that FEMA would not move that project to the county. So, 2 years ago, we put a land exchange agreement in. Basically, the county owned the property where the new middle school was. And so we deeded that to the school for the bill. And in return, they deeded us Bowman for us to use as a county building and to preserve and to try to develop that out. So, when the storm hit, it was still under the school's, deed. And so therefore, their FEMA was what was driving, scoping and repairs on that. So now, they did see our land exchange agreement was something done prior to the storm, and we finally went high enough up the FEMA ladder, and one of the guys said, move this thing to the county. And so he sent the directive down, and it's gonna go that way. So, that'll allow us to scope it. There are several things that I found in there that they had missed, several things being like some of our electrical went underwater and that had not been scoped out. So we're gonna take it from the beginning, re-scope it out, and, we're gonna move Bowman along to get what, damages that we're eligible for on that. So we're gonna start moving that out. Of course, our fields are going well. You know, we've got the press box, FEMA visit I did, and I thought, well, you know, inspection that typically, we've been used to it being about 30 minutes, maybe 45. These guys came out and, Ryan Cook and myself and one of the maintenance guys, there's 2 hours inspecting that thing. So we'll see. I think it'll go good and it's moving forward. We'll see some amounts on that. Right now on our field repairs through FEMA, we're at about 2.1 million thereabouts. We're hoping to get maybe another 300,000 or 400,000 of, reimbursement for where that flood damaged that press box. What I see in the future is we're gonna have a beautiful field, complex down through here. And it's gonna be restored fully. We're gonna have a creek walk expansion coming down through here, so. It's exciting to look 2 years into the future when all this is done. Of course, now, we did talk about, you know, we're moving forward. The board in the last meeting agreed that we have found that we have mold that has gotten a little bit too wild, and we mitigated these buildings over here, but that mold is gonna require us to do a salvage, demolition on our county buildings over here, because I can't bring the workers in with a good conscience if they have any kind of compromised breathing. We find it mold related. It's just not the ideal situation. So those buildings will be, torn down, and that will make room for more parking, but we're looking at that with a civil engineer to see what we're gonna do on that as far as how that rolls out and lays out. But, you know, picture in Bakersville with a huge parking area in here for our rec center, for our fields, for events, for festivals. There's gonna be a lot more, anytime a small town having parking options, usually that's a hard thing to find in small towns is parking. So we're gonna start opening some of that up. See what else I was gonna tell you all about.
Do you have an update on PPDR?
PPDR, very good, yes. So private property debris removal. So Mitchell, Avery, and Yancey are all three waiting for, the go-ahead to initiate our programs. We're all three ready. We've got our pieces in place to do it, but FEMA has been, they do a pre-audit on our work assignments and our documentation. And for whatever reason, they have not done it. So, we're looking at a new state program that might, we might roll some of our debris removal in. That's what I was hinting at earlier about a Wednesday meeting. So in the mid-month meeting, if our meetings look good on this and promising, what will happen on this new group that they're doing it through the state, they will take over all the, payment of the debris removal on the PPDR. So we're not running our cash flow. As we run all these projects, you know, we're running off fund balance, you know, it gets reimbursed, and we're running off this cash flow advance loan. So we need to have our, if we can get a program that does the same thing we're trying to do, and the state's running it, and they're taking the pay, pay on it, that is great, which leads me to the next thing, speaking of pay. The Corps of Engineers and the waterways, so, I was watching some of these, reports that I get daily. If any of y'all ever wanna know, kind of let me know and I can forward you, but there's a report that they give out each morning of how many crews they got in the waterways. And early on, they were running about 20 crews, which I thought was a lot. You spread 20 waterway crews with a couple tracos, dump trucks and grabber equipment that grabs stuff and moves it. Well, we got 40 in the creeks right now. 40 water, so they're pushing this project because what we're hearing is the Corps costs the state on the 90-10 cost match. We just talked about a lot of money. And so they're wanting to wrap up our use of the Corps. The Corps is the prime A1 bringing all the equipment to bear. So I guess we'll have probably another month, maybe a little more. I have asked the state, please complete our waterway debris removal. And we've been hearing that they are. But I think they're bulking it up to try to get it completed by the end of June. So, you're gonna see a lot of waterway debris removal going on and, so we look at it like this. This is the order they told me back in the beginning of the storm. Typically, it's right of way, a waterway, and then PPDR. That's how the three fall out. So you can probably bet that they'll, right when they see waterway winding up, they'll kick PPDR on. So,
We still got some places, so the first part of that, the right of way, we still got quite a few places that's got things, are they going?
oh, the right of way's gonna be here since they're not a core one where they're bleeding money to the state. The right of way will probably be running for, I bet till the 1st of September before they're all said and done.
Okay.
That's kind of where we were thinking on that. Cause, they'll probably put out to the citizens watching live stream a last dated curb, date. My guess is that'll probably be sometime mid-July, and then they might give you one more chance mid-August. So we may get 2 last dated curb dates where they do 2 final patrols. Then if that stuff gets laid out on the side of the road, then if it's on your property, you will have to figure out a way to get rid of it. So, it's coming. The 1-year anniversary cuts off all that 90-10 Thor was talking about. So when we get to that 1 year of the storm, that's our kind of run date on our debris side of it. They're trying to say we get about a 1 year of 90-10 reimbursement, and then, anything's after that, we're not as much guaranteed. So I think that includes your debris. When PPTR launches, I'm probably gonna set us up a town hall meeting for everybody to get back on the, just to meet and ask questions and things like that. Right now, things are just running waterway. Mavis and me are running a ton of work through this office, as millions of dollars running through this office right now on reimbursement stuff. And there's just a ton of storm related work that's probably, so it don't peak till about now. It's probably the next 3 months, we're gonna be peaking out in our storm related administrative work. So we're gonna be peaking, and then it'll stay high for about 5 years afterwards. But the main peak of it's gonna be probably this year through fall. I would say we'll probably run it pretty hard and heavy. But yeah, anybody got any questions on anything?
How many people do we have signed up for PPDR right now?
I think the last I heard, we were getting close to 1,000. So, I put an extra, I think we got a lot that's kind of holding out, thinking they got a power brush and then they're gonna put in. But you can put in for it and say, don't come to do a pickup until like July. That's what I did. I said, look, I've got much more brush to pile. Folks, come back put me on for a July pickup, is what I said. So if y'all want to sign up and tell them to put you for a July or August pickup, you can do that.
I had one thing I just wanted to notate. I wanted to know if there has been any discussion or update about the bridge there on Beans Creek. Because not on, about it being structurally sound, it was the one that I showed you a picture of, the citizens
It's
at
got
that
like
way were very concerned about.
Beams broke in it, yeah.
Because debris trucks were going up through there, but now it is also caked full of mud,
So
causing a second hazard.
I had touched base with DOT and I touched base, the Corps of Engineers is using the Beans Creek as a temporary debris site. And they're chipping there and then they'll haul off. And when they were taking over that, they got with DOT to put braces on that bridge. Now, with your pictures of that, even with braces, Harley shows me this picture. And it's like, there's things cracked under that bridge. But they did bring engineering teams from what I've understood, and I talked to Ashbridge and I said, so your bridge is cleared for your equipment. And they said it was, and I do think DOT is got that liability they hold on there, so I'm guessing we're good.
Well,
That's,
pass it
I'll
off
say
to
that
somebody,
on the
so
live
I'm not
stream
liable.
to the folks that, you know, I've been, from what they're telling me, there has been some braces or something put onto that bridge to make it good
Well, I thought, well,
until the next 2-inch rain. So anyways,
So my last question was, do we have a time frame on two different events, one being our ribbon cutting for a law enforcement center? Do we have a time frame on that? And then do we have any sort of time frame that we're looking to do our after action report? Probably in the new fiscal year, after budget's winding down, or either one of those?
that's been a big thing right there is our budget season. Andrew Brewer's our emergency manager and he has been compiling, incident reports. He's got questionnaires that he's been sending out to put together an after action report. And then one of the components is gonna be bringing everybody into the room and having us talk about that. So, it's coming on the after action. I think our emergency management folks are working on it as we speak, but it's gonna come into that where we start talking to department heads and we start going into that. So one of the goals is to do an after action and then amend our emergency operations plan over the course of the next 6 months. I know Andrew stepped up into the EM role in late January, early February, and I was wanting to let him get a little bit more under his feet as he went into that. But we don't want to get too late on the after action because then we start not remembering the lessons that we've learned and the events. So we're going, some of it's PTSD, not PTDR. So it's in there in that mind. And we might have to have some counselors when we go recollect all those memories. But yes, that's going on. What was your other one?
When are we doing our ribbon cutting on our?
Oh, yes, the fun stuff, the ribbon cutting. So you know what? I think we're gonna have 2 ribbon cuttings rather close. It's gonna be one for the license plate agency. And the other's gonna be for the law enforcement center. I was waiting for a door to get moved. Now, if I'm gonna have to go in there and double check with that on Hickory Construction, see, and Linda with Mosley. To see, John, do you know if that door's been moved yet, or have you been in there lately? The one in the vestibule where the customers are, okay.
It wasn't.
Where it opens and as an opposing opening.
Yeah, the two doors hit, so I've told them, you know, for us to be finalized on this project, that was our punch list item, probably the last one.
Okay.
And I said, I'd like for you to fix that door before the ribbon cut, but we could do one right now.
Okay.
But I hate to show y'all 2 doors colliding, and especially when you come in. So I'm trying to, you know, trying to make a good impression on this board and let them see some good stuff that they're voting for, so. But no, I could do one on that anytime. Let's say though that, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this. Tentatively, whether it's finished or not, with that door move, and it's slated to happen, in the month of July. Let's plan on doing 2 ribbon cuttings. We'll do them on, or maybe do one at the July 1st. But we'll plan it. I'll plan you one in July and maybe another one, we might do 2 in July with the tag office coming open very soon.
The rec center will be what, this fall?
Red Center might be in the month of September. So we've got a lot going on. We're gonna see some projects coming to fruition. Any more questions?
More comments, Ms. Masters?
I do have one. I was out of town a little bit last week, and then once I got back, I was bombarded by some questions. I'm assuming that come from the last PM meeting in Spruce Pine. But we're elected to be good stewards of the citizens, and so I just felt like I needed to make a comment about the concert. And so let me get my papers organized here, sorry. So once I had gotten back from vacation, I had reached out to Mr. Steins, the new town manager. And he was very forthcoming with information, provided me some factual information because this was not a county organized event. And so I didn't want to misspeak or misrepresent. And I thought this would be the easiest way for me just to provide information to the citizens versus getting on Facebook, because you never know what you can believe on Facebook. And so, without going into the whole entire email, Mr. Steins did respond back and said that he did not know 100% of the organizational structure since that was before his time. So then he proceeded to forward my email to Spencer, who is the Main Street Director. And in short, Spencer responded to my question and indicated that the Oliver Anthony concert was organized by the Rural Revival Project, and that is a Virginia-based non-stock corporation, and you can find their information online. And then he also indicated that the town of Spruce Pine did not sponsor this event, and that their role was limited to standard municipality support, as with any other events held in town, like the LN Festival and the Barbecue Festival. And he said that Downtown Spruce Pine, which is a nonprofit that he directs, was not involved in the planning or the execution of the event, aside from coordinating the food and the craft vendors. And then all of the vendor fees from that portion were retained by Downtown Spruce Pine, and it totaled in the amount of $1,250. And any other assistance that he had provided was as a private citizen and not his capacity as the Main Street Director. He also indicated that there were some questions that were asked about local vendors. And so that was a question that I had asked, and he said, as of now, all local vendors and employees had been paid for. Any financial discrepancies or outside balances are solely the responsibility of the Rural Revival Project. They have also let him know that this is not a final reconciliation of their finances, and that they're preparing a statement on the event, and they will hopefully be presenting that to the public soon. And so he also provided a spreadsheet that I believe was presented to the town council. If anybody wants to look at it, I can make you a copy. But it did notate the amount of income, donations that they have received, and then the expenditure items for that. So I just got a lot of questions about it, so I just wanted to make it very clear that this was not a Mitchell County organized event, and that I just felt led just to put a statement out there, just so that the facts were there.
Anything else? Mr. Ellis?
No, no comment.
Mr. Davis?
Just one comment. For one, you sit here and you look at all of this debris removal and all the accomplishments that we've had, and you can look in the debris dumping sites and see all the work going on, especially out. As I go home, I see it in two different places out in Grassy Creek. And I just want to tell the office here, the organization of it, the finance part of it. It's just we had to give you a grade, we would probably give you an A+ on the organization of what has been done so far in this county. You see a lot of work still going on. You see a lot of those big trucks coming, and sometimes people hate to see those big trucks coming, but those big trucks mean progress. It means that things are being done, things are being moved, and thank you to this office for the organization. And one more thing, we can't thank that lady in the corner over there enough. With all this stuff tonight we've had, I mean, she puts it, everybody knows she puts it all in notebooks for some of us. She puts some of it on our iPads. She puts some in our folders. She gets our agendas. She sends us emails on what we need to be ready for. what to, read up on, so. We don't think these are enough either, so I would think her tonight too.
I heard her tell, council tonight she was worried to death because she hadn't sent him something, and he said, no, you sent that to me.
Very true.
That's all I've got.
Mr. Steve, it worries me about Dookie because tonight is the first time she's never put these little tabs, so you must be very stressed out. You've always got me a tab up here, so I cannot believe that.
Well, you have to pay more attention.
You did a good job. Thank you, as always. I was giving you a hard time. It makes me worried, don't you got too much going on. I don't have any comments other than that, so something I forgot to mention earlier, have spoken with Justin Summers, the Ted Budd's office in Ralph Ice. And this is concerning the detours coming off the parkway. So both of those agencies, state, federal and state, are going to try to get those detours to come through Mitchell, Yancey, Madison versus down 180, 12 Morgan and 20 back, so we get bypassed again for another fall season. We realize our section of the parkway in Mitchell County will not be up, you know, from where it comes into Virginia through Boone to the Meadows, and we were hoping that it's not gonna happen to us. But they're gonna try to work to get the detour traffic coming through at least the county. And then, you know, it'll be up to us,
That'd be good. Signing.
travel tourism, but to recruit and get people where they need to be. And the only other thing I'm gonna say, you know, we look back 9 months ago. We were on the last run of the step ladder. We had come such a long way as a county, a lot of things happened. Recreation facility, law enforcement center, new school, YMCA, Blue Ridge Boutique Hotel. Small businesses coming into our area and thriving. And remember where you were 8 months ago today, about 5-7 days after the storm. Never will forget my buddy over here. He's always jolly and, you know, got, you know, something to say. Cut it sometimes. Never will forget the first meeting we had after the storm. He come in, never seen a facial expression on you like that, so. Hoping never see it again. Well, me too.
I second that.
You were drawn, you were down, that was
Mm-hmm.
a miserable time. And you made a comment, we was on top of the ladder, now we're at the bottom. Okay, we're 8 months and a few days. Okay, look how far we have come. With good people, with volunteers, with the workers that have showed up, but most of all, the people in this building. Directing and giving, I'm not gonna say giving out orders, but giving direction, and look how far we've come. I know there's a long way to go, guys. We all understand. But if you remember September 27th, and a few days after that, you know, we were destroyed. I mean, our community was destroyed everywhere. So we've come a long way. I've said this before, be patient, you know, be supportive. You know, maybe you didn't like your neighbor September 25th, but you told a whole lot more of them September 29th when they come and cut the tree off your house. So, you know, a lot of work to do. We've come a long way, but let's all try to be civil and respectful and help each other. And that's all I gotta say about it. Good part of the solution, not the problem. Yeah. So, you know, I think that's a good advice for anybody. We welcome the help and it takes all of us. Okay, I'll now entertain a motion to go into closed session 143, 318, 11, 83, that's to consult with an attorney. So I'm gonna entertain that motion. Make a motion. Have a second. Second. All in favor? This board will now go into closed session. Board, thank you, county manager, attorney, department.